Hey, true believers. Chris Mac coming at you today with Wolverine number 2. And I gotta say, I'm so thankful that I was able to get my Wolverine number 1 re-uploaded before starting this one, because I got this, the page went down, and I went, oh crap. So thankfully I got my Wolverine number 1 done, so make sure to go check that out. Because there were some things in there that I was talking about in terms of like X-Force being in the Wolverine book. But now that we're here, I can kind of understand why. And before we dive into this, in the last review, I did not go over the first story in the book because Wolverine number 1 has 2 stories in it. It has the main one that we're following here, and then there's another one which I'm assuming is going to be a future plot point that follows Wolverine hunting down vampires and Omega Red returning, which is really interesting. But anyway, we were introduced to a villain named the Pale Girl who can make people do things against their will. And there's a whole thing with the petals that the Marauders and the Hellfire Club are distributing, the petals to all the people to heal them. And there's another thing going on called the Flower Cartel. And so I like when we're out on the ocean, we kind of get this really, I like these borders around here, just really kind of, it just adds to it. I don't know, it just really adds to the eeriness of it, especially right here where the Pale Girl infiltrates the Marauders. And poor Bishop, he kind of gets his butt handed to him and is drugged down into the waters by a terrifying, zombified-looking Kitty Pryde. Just, wow, yeah, that is anyone's nightmare. Now, to kind of give everyone a quick rundown of what I was just talking about, it says right here, a street drug known as pollen is rapidly gaining popularity around the world. Concocted from the raw Krakoan flowers, the purest form of the drug is only available through the Flower Cartel, a ruthless trafficking organization with a psychic enforcer called the Pale Girl. Wolverine and X-Force have been in pursuit in Alaska until Wolverine mysteriously killed his teammates and was found incoherent by CIA agent Jeff Bannister. And so Jeff's kind of like a reluctant character in this book. He kind of was supposed to be retired, I think. My memory escapes me sometimes. But he kind of got back into this because it's personal. Now, this is Benjamin Percy writing, Adam Kubert doing the art, Frank Martin doing the coloring, VC's Corey Petit doing the lettering. Here's everyone else associated with the book. And so issue 2 here is called Your Own Worst Enemy, which really makes sense. So we cut back to Alaska and we see Wolverine here going up against what you would think would be, what were they called? The Ravengers? No. It wasn't the Marauders either. It was Donald Pierce and Lady Deathstrike. I can't remember what they were called. The Reavers, I think it is. And you just see Wolverine tearing into these characters. And you're just like, man, that is intense. But, yeah, this is not as what it appears to be. And I don't necessarily want to give everything away here. But, yeah, it's pretty rough. And then we see Wolverine wake up on Krakoa, and Healer here, who was once a Morlock's talking about how Jeff Bannister dropped Logan at a Krakoan gate and says, you owe me a beer. And then when you find out Bishop's here and he's recovering from what happened to him. And now, when it comes to these new Dawn of X books, I'm so tired of these explainers in the Krakoan language. It was kind of a novelty when we did Powers of 10 and House of X, which I will make sure to get those re-uploaded again, and if I don't have the backups, I will re-record. Promise, I just got to get there. But anyway, the reason that this is so personal to Jeff is his child is in the hospital, and they're waiting for petals that could heal them. And because of all the cartel infiltration, it's getting harder and harder to get these petals. And so, yeah, Jeff has had enough, and he wants to get this knocked out. And his child here is saying that we need to get the mutants involved. And he goes, he says, and I know you hate them, but this is their fault. Their medicine is supposed to be helping us, not hurting us. Where's the help? And the stakes are raised because the CIA is trying to hunt down the Pale Girl. And it's not going so well. Now here we get a really rough scene because Logan's coming here to the, what is this place called? The Healing? No. What is this place called? I forget. Hold on. The Hatchery. Sorry, I had to stop and think about it for a moment. But this is where the mutants are recloned, and the whole rebirth process happens. And so you see a body here, you see Logan here, you see Cyclops here. He goes, Scott, you know I didn't mean to hurt them, to hurt Jeannie. You know I'm going to make things right. So you start to see another schism between longtime friends. So I'm kind of interested to see where this goes, especially since Wolverine killed the one woman that they both love. Now, in my last review, I was talking about how I felt, because in the first story, which is what we're continuing here, there was a lot of X-Force presence in the first book. And then the second story with the vampires was strictly Wolverine. And I was talking about how they should have really left the X-Force story for X-Force. But now that I've gone through issue 2, because here he teams up with Jeff Bannister, because remember how Bannister said you owe him Wolverine owes him a beer. And so they start to talk here. And so there's no more X-Force. They're all being reborn in the birthing pods. And here there's this uneasy alliance between this human and this mutant. And that's kind of how the old Wolverine books were. When he would go solos, he'd always kind of end up teaming up with either someone like Gambit or Jubilee, or in other times they'd just be characters, just some obscure character that you wouldn't know, or just someone off the streets like this Jeff Bannister. And so I'm starting to see now why Percy had to use X-Force in issue 1. I was just afraid that when we continued, it was just going to keep being X-Force, X-Force, X-Force. So I'm just glad that Percy's explaining without blatantly saying it why he did what he did. And I'm hoping that once this story wraps up with the Pale Girl, that we continue with the vampire story, because that was actually really, really interesting and very noirish, and I can't wait to see Omega Red's involvement in that. So yeah, some things happen here with Jeff Bannister where things go south super quick, and it's really rough to see what happens. So if you're interested in what's going on, please make sure to support your local comic shop. And at the time of this recording, if we're all still trapped inside like Golem, then make sure to please call your local comic shop and see if they can mail a copy to you, or deliver it to you, or there's other shops that are doing curbside service. And if this is the future and we have hover cars and self-tying shoes and all that good stuff, then please make sure to take time out of your day to go support your local comic shop and pick up a copy of this book. And if you've enjoyed this review, we definitely appreciate it if you take a minute to hit like, share, and subscribe. It helps the club channel more than you could possibly know, especially since we're having to start over again, and I'm trying to get all my old videos from the last year re-uploaded. So if you were subscribed, please resubscribe, and if you're new, subscribe too, that'd be great. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little adamantium bell next to subscribe, then when we upload new content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments below, and just to have a dialogue with you guys, or on our social media pages, which I will make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you all so much for stopping by. I hope you continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.